Yo, and hello, everybody. My name is Mike, and that's not Ty.
Not
That's
Ty.
Andy. You're not Ty. On the fly with Mike and not Ty. That's what we're going to call this episode. This is Andy. She blinded me with refractors on YouTube. One of my truly great friends, and he's pinch hitting for Ty today. Welcome to the show, Andy. This is your first time on the fly.
This is my first time, and the first thing I will say is like I watch you guys all the time, and as soon as the show starts, I kind of notice you guys kind of bebopping a little bit, and I can see why now because that's a catchy tune. Like
Right.
as the tune was playing, I kind of found myself like, all right, this is I see, I get it,
Yep.
I get it.
And you know who did that was Matt, of course, created
Uh,
our little intro there.
Matt, very talented dude. Got to talk to him a little bit this weekend. Yeah, he's awesome.
Speaking of weekends, do you know what I got to do? I guess it was kind of the part of the weekend, but I'm wearing the hat for the PGA Championship because I was there last Thursday, and what a very cool environment. First of all, great course, Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Me and some buddies drove up on Wednesday, stopped at one of you and I's favorite places, WinStar Casino in Oklahoma. Did some gambling, woke up bright and early the next morning, drove the rest of the way to Tulsa, spent the whole day there, followed Tiger around. Tiger was paired with Jordan and Rory, and it was just very cool. And so many people, man. Good grief.
So, had you ever seen Tiger play before in person?
I had one other time. He played here in Fort. By the way, it's Colonial Week, which is the local tournament here in Fort Worth this week, which is weird. It's right after a major, but usually it's not because they had Byron 2 weeks ago in Dallas, the Byron Nelson PGA, and now Colonial. He played here one time back in, God, 99, like it's a long time ago. It was the only time he played in Colonial, and he did it because Byron Nelson was still. Yeah, I guess it was. I can't remember. One of the old time Fort Worth golfers, there's a bunch of them, was still alive, and he wanted to pay tribute to that. So even though he hates the course, which is why he's never played it since. And I went and saw him that day, tee off on one, play one, tee off on two, and I left because the crowds were so bonkers that I just couldn't take it. And so, and it was like 100, and it was crazy hot for May. And I was like, okay, I'm good. I saw Tiger. I get to say I saw Tiger. So that was it. That's it. But other than that, and the other day, he was struggling the other day physically. I mean, you could tell he was grinding.
So I played a decent amount of golf when I was younger, but you play a ton now. So
I
like
played today.
could you explain what it's like though to see someone like Tiger Woods in the tee box hit his tee shot? Like what is that like? Is it just like does it just blow your mind even?
It's not just Tiger, it's all of them. They hit the ball so far, and it has a different sound. You hear guys talking about baseballs coming off the bat and the different sounds that different players have, and sometimes it's just special. And
Yes.
that's true with the great golfers. You hear them hit the ball, and and the reality is when you hit a good golf shot, is you probably know from playing a lot, you don't feel it. Like it, and same with baseball, it's like, wow, did I really? And it's counterintuitive because not the slower you swing, but you don't have to swing hard to hit it far, right? Swinging hard is part of the equation, but it's more about club head speed and all. Anyway, these guys just generate so much of that. They're just amazing, and the courses they play are way different than the courses I play or you play. You
Sure.
know, there was a 656-yard par five. That would take me about 6 strokes just to get to the green, and then I'm probably 3 or 4 putting on those types of greens. So I always thought it'd be fun to see if they let a 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 handicap go out and play that course and not just, I know they let the volunteers play usually after a tournament and stuff like that. Let them go play in the same environment, because not only do you have to play this crazy hard course, but there's people everywhere and people yelling, and everybody's got their phone up taking your video while you're hitting a shot. And
Yeah, that would be so nerve-wracking. Like I've just imagined that in my head, and I could totally see myself just like shanking off the drive and just nailing somebody that's just standing right there.
which is why they probably don't let people do it, because they would kill
Yeah,
someone.
they
Someone
definitely
would
don't
be.
want to let somebody like me. So I talked to you earlier, and you said that you played today. You shot a 79, correct?
I did.
So what do you think you would shoot on that course in the
In the
conditions
same
they played in?
environment,
Yes.
I would, if I and I play legit all the time, because I don't feel like you can get any better if you're using foot wedges and improving your lies and all that stuff. So I try to play very, like, if I hit one out of bounds, I'm taking a penalty, all that stuff. I would probably shoot 130, and I'm a 12 handicap, so I would 130. I'd be happy if I shot under 130, which would be miserable for everyone else, including myself, to be a
Oh,
part of that.
yes.
That's terrible.
I think that would be fun to, like, have a televised event where they just have people, just normal people play on a course like that. I think that would be funny to watch.
It would be. That could be on ESPN, the Ocho.
The Ocho, for sure.
But after that, we got to hang out, you and me. And the reason I wanted you to pinch hit for Ty today is the topic that's kind of churning in my brain is shows, because you and I were both at the Dallas Card Show. I did a recap over on Baseball Collector. You'll probably do, well, you may or may not do a recap. I don't know why you'd do a recap. You didn't buy anything, but
I had my normal show where, yeah, I didn't buy anything.
yeah. But I think there's a trend happening in the hobby that is interesting and telling. You and I have been to so many consecutive, like 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive Dallas card shows. They're having it every other month, so it's pretty often. And so I've seen this trend just by using the Dallas Card Show as a microcosm of maybe what's happening in the hobby. How would you say over the last 5 or 6 or 7 that you've been to, have you seen the Dallas Card Show change, positive or negative?
Well, I think from, like, if I'm just looking at the first ones that I went to, which would be, it was right after, things started opening up a little bit. In Texas, obviously one of the first places to open up. So this was like really the only big card show going on at the time. So it was traffic, foot traffic like I've never seen at a show before. And, you
Outside
had,
of the national, maybe.
even
Yeah.
prior to last year's national, even comparable to, previous ones before that, you had more, lots of cameras, people walking around filming everything and I'm not talking about just people filming stuff on their phones, like they had a crew with them and stuff like that. A lot more of that. So I'm seeing a lot less of that. Obviously there's less people that are attending than there was back then, but it's still a lot. Now on Thursday, that's kind of like the setup day, and the show's only open for like 4 hours.
Kind
And
of like the sneak peek day at the national.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so the main floor was probably half empty as far as the dealer table. Like half of the people weren't there on Thursday. So I was a little bit concerned. I was like, man, this show may not be that good. But then Friday rolls around and it's, just kind of like any other Dallas show as far as the foot traffic and all that goes. I think over the last couple of shows, I would say maybe a few more people trying to sell as far as, non-dealers. You're seeing a lot more of that, which I don't think that's probably too surprising because, with the overall sports card market down a little bit, there's people that are probably into some of these cards for a lot of money, looking to recoup some of that. But yeah, I guess those are a few of the main things that stick out to me. But what about you? Have you noticed some stuff?
Yeah. It's funny to me. It keeps getting bigger in terms of number of dealer tables. I think I heard Kyle say over 700 dealer tables, which is, oh, by the way, that's how many the national has. It's obviously less space because there's not all the corporate presence that you have at the national. Although, ComC is there and a bunch of different, off-brand grading companies are there set up, and Whatnot was there doing a huge had a huge presence there. So there were definitely some corporate people, but the reality is it's mostly just dealers. And so many tables, it's grown in that respect. I mean, it used to be one giant room. Now it's 4 rooms or 5 rooms. However, they pack every nook and cranny of that place. It's almost outgrowing it, to be honest. But it's still a cool environment. I would say I was always worried, or I had been worried, that with more and more shows opening around the country, regional shows, local shows, that the vibe of the Dallas show, the popularity of the Dallas show would continue to diminish, just due to I don't have to go to it's not only Dallas, to go to. I have other choices, and so collectors and dealers and everybody else will go, hey, I'll do something a lot closer to home, a lot less expensive, and this and that. So I certainly think there are less people traveling to come to Dallas, although it's still kind of like, hey, people talk about, I want to go to the Dallas show. And I think Kyle, who runs the Dallas show, is the promoter of it. I think he just hit the lucky lottery of being the first one to kind of reopen. I think that could have been wherever, and that would have become the show, assuming it kept being run good. And Kyle does a good job running it, no doubt. And he's done a good job expanding it. But I think he just got kind of lucky in the timing. It was nothing more than great timing. And that's not his fault, but good on him, So the changes I've seen are those. I think yesterday or Saturday, I should say, when I was there, I know you were there all weekend. I want to get your ideas on some of the other days, but Saturday was lots of people were there. And this is dealer feedback, me talking to dealers, probably half a dozen to 10, maybe, that I kind of ask questions. Hey, how's the show going for you? And the universal response was tons of traffic, lots of people, everybody wanting to either sell or trade, and not a ton of buying. Was that the same vibe maybe you felt or heard or people talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely heard some of that. I mean, like, just if I was just speaking to my own experience at the show, it was kind of unique for me because, like, I tend to have some kind of like oddball stuff, I guess you would say, compared to like what other people are buying and selling. So I mean, I even had one guy that he committed the cardinal sin, according to you, right? And me too, I would say. Like, he just walked up, he saw a card that was like $300 is what I had on it. And he's just like, I'll take that. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, here you go. So, it was a mixed bag. I mean, you always have people that are trying to, really just kind of grind you down. It's like they want a deal more than they actually want the card itself. They'll get it if they can get it cheap enough to where maybe they think they can sell it to somebody else for more. But yeah, I heard some rumblings around the show of people that were, struggling to move stuff. Some people complained that, people just wanted to try to sell to them. So stuff like that. But I mean, just me personally, like I said, I'm not really a dealer per se. So I'm not like doing this as a living. So I probably have like a totally different mindset than those guys do. But I was pretty pleased with, what I was able to do at the show.
Do you think that's telling in any way, or can we draw any conclusions from, look, I didn't poll every dealer. I'm not saying I have this mountain of data to back up this statement, but it feels like to me, there's a lot of people that are in the hobby and they're trying to get liquid. They're trying to get cash heavy, either because they don't like the trend that they're seeing in the market, which means that's why these people are coming to sell to these dealers, or they're trying to trade 10 cards that everyone has for one more rare card. Right. And
Sure.
So I think they're trying to trade to put themselves in a better position, or they're just trying to sell a bunch of stuff that everybody has. I think that's a trend that's happening hobby wide. I don't think that's only in Dallas or only wherever. I think
that's for sure
agree?
something that's happening everywhere. And I often think about this. Is it a problem? I mean, this is kind of an odd question maybe, but is it a problem that's just in the sports card world, or do you think that most of this is like just due to all of the other things that are going on inside the country? Like, stock market down, all these things are down, inflation high. So I don't know if it's really like necessarily a sports card problem more than just an overall economic problem.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is yes. All of that plays into it. For certain people, different aspects of that statement are important to them, right? Certain things matter. I certainly know that my clients feel, they're tightening up because it's weird. Discretionary spending changes when that discretionary spending buys less stuff, i.e. inflation, or if you look at your 401k and it's now a 201k, because of the market going down, you feel less wealthy, and it changes your decisions. It affects your behavior, even on a subconscious level. I'm telling you, it's real. And so I think people go, whoa, I can't buy as many cards, or I need to be careful. And I did a show about the National with Eric on Golden Age of Cardboard, and I brought up, flights and all, you and I both know we're going to the National. We know how much it costs to go. And the comments were amazing. How many people said, I'm not going because, and I talked about this last week, I'm not going because I can't afford, things have changed. The world is different. And now that used to be $300 plane ticket is now $600, or different reasons. But again, like I said, you add up all these things. And I think it doesn't spell good news for completely luxury discretionary items like sports cards. But yes, I think it affects all the other things too, except for, and I'll make this point, people are still taking vacations, like true vacations. I hear they're like, look, we haven't gone on vacation in 2 years or 3 years. We're going this year, no matter, damn the cost kind of thing. Right. So other than that, I think people are being more careful and cognizant of how they're spending money. All the floodgates have stopped from the government, in terms of stimulus checks and all of that. It's all way in the rearview mirror. People are going to have to go, oh crap, there's no bailout coming from the government on this. We're going to have to fight through it. And we will. The economy's going to be fine. We're in a recession now. I truly believe that economically, and this too shall pass. But the question I have for you, we're May 23rd right now. We're recording this. We're 2 months and a week away from being in Atlantic City at the National. Do you think things go similarly for the next 2 months? Does it get better if you're a buyer? Worse if you're a seller? What do you think the trend is over the next couple of months?
Man, that is the $1 million question. And I think back to all these different things that have happened over the last couple of years, and what I thought would happen whenever the shutdown happened, as far as the card market happened. I was totally wrong on that. Everything went through the roof instead of crashing like I thought it would. So I mean, I'm not a good predictor on these things. So I would, man, I don't think there's going to be anything too drastic. I mean, I could see things, and they've been sort of, creeping back down the prices anyway, at least the realized prices. Now, people, to your point, at these shows, people are still asking for prices from, 6 months ago, 1 year ago. They're not getting them, but they're still asking. And, I think over the next couple of months, you could see some people start to take some small losses on those just to, get more liquid, like you said. So,
yeah, I certainly had that experience at the show where dealers were priced stuff that I was looking, vintage baseball, for example, I did a lot of walking by, and it's great when it's priced on the, I hate it when it's not priced and I have to ask and they give me some, bonkers number. And I literally, say thank you and walk away, because prices were so high. It's not even worth, we're so far apart, we're not going to get there. And I did have a good pickup. I'll show it real quick. My favorite pickup, if you didn't watch my recap, is I got a Hank Aaron 5-star autograph.
Oh, I got to see that in person. That's beautiful.
It was one of those, you know, wanted to buy it. Price felt not unfair. I just was like, God, it's not a. Yeah, I like getting deals. You know me.
I do know you, and you love
I'm
deals.
such a low baller.
Going back to your point you made earlier about plane tickets, you got a deal. Like yours was 300, and you're like, you were telling me this whole time, like, oh, you need to book this, you need to book this. I'm like, I'll wait. We're still way far out. So I ended up paying 500. So
And we're flying on the same flights.
I'm sitting right next to you.
Right. It's like yeah.
So
But
yeah,
that card was. I was like, oh, I want a deal, and I kept, you walk the show, and I'm like, could not stop thinking about that card, and that's kind of when I knew, like, yeah, I'm gonna regret not buying that if I don't go back and get it. And so I did, and I probably paid a little more than I should have, but I didn't pay sticker. He had it stickered at 600.
yeah, but you're never gonna regret buying that card.
No, I'm not. I'm thrilled I bought it, and I got some good pickups, but they were a lot fewer and far between than normal, right? And the funny thing is, I always laugh because a dealer, if they wanted to, could sell every card in their showcase.
Absolutely.
Right? All you have to do is
I know some guys that did.
Yeah, and okay, I'll make that. Let me go down that road. Just because we saw a lot of high prices, and yeah, I didn't buy as much stuff as I came home with money in my wallet. I'm not just going to spend money to spend money, which is unusual for me, as you well know. But there were deals getting done. You told me about a deal. If you want to give as much information as you feel comfortable giving about it, a big deal.
Yeah, I definitely, know of some six-figure deals that happened at this show. And it's so different, like in the higher end stuff, the stuff that you just don't see a lot of. It is still doing pretty well. Some of it might be down a little bit, certain players might be down a little bit, but there's other guys that are, even up in this down market. It's more of the stuff that I like to call it the investor channel type stuff, the stuff that people were fed to go out. Oh, you need to go out and buy this, and no, don't just buy one, buy like 10 of them, right? That's the kind of stuff that is everywhere. And the people are wanting to get rid of it. First off, because it's starting to go down pretty dramatically. But secondly, because it's probably something they didn't really want in the first place. They were just told that, oh, you need to buy this, right? So they didn't really have any attachment to it. So a lot of times if you buy something and it goes down, like for guys like us, we buy stuff that we like. So even if it's down a little bit, we still like it just the same. I can't imagine what it would be like if you bought a card for like $500 and it went down to like 100 and it was something you didn't even like anyways.
Yeah, that would be mega frustrating.
That would be awful.
Yeah, it's buy what you like. That's what I had a guy come up to me. Hey, I love your channel. And he's like, I don't know what to do right now in the hobby. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I really love the vintage. I love what you talk about. I just don't know how to start. I've been a ultra modern guy. I said, well, that transition's tricky. And it's, if you don't want to just keep all the ultra modern, you got to get rid of it and most likely take a bath on it. Right. And, oh, by the way, the population reports of all those cards are just going, it's not like they're not grading any more PSA 10s in Ja Morant rookies or Zion or whoever, right? Or Acuna or Soto or whoever. So
that's another thing I have noticed is I've seen a lot more younger people / people that just got in the hobby the last couple of years. More and more of them seem to be transitioning into vintage a little bit more. And I think, a lot of those guys are doing it because I think they feel it's safer. I think they feel like, even if stuff does continue to go down, like the overall card market, that stuff, even if it dips, it's not going to just crash like, some of this ultra modern high population type stuff. And
yeah,
I think, have you noticed that as well? Like, cause you're always looking for vintage. So you're out on the floor. Do you see a lot of younger people or newer people kind of at the tables you're at?
Yeah, it's a lot of the direct messages I get on Instagram and stuff is a lot of guys that say, "Hey, love your podcast. I've learned so much. I'm a 35-year-old guy that just got back into the hobby and I'm wanting to get into vintage now." So I hear that I say a lot. It's it's been a couple dozen over the last month or so that have sent me messages, and they're always like, "What do you think I should get?" And it's like I hear that and I'm like, who have you been watching? Like, who are you listening to? Because they've obviously been programmed with the way the quote unquote investor channels work. I'm going to give you the 5 cards you need to buy today, and
Yes.
they want somebody to hand it to them. What should I start with? I don't know. What team do you like? What players do you like? Go read some stories about some old guys and start buying their cards. Just you gotta love it at least like it, or you're gonna hate it, and that's not a good place to be. That's not a way to collect. It's not collecting. That's acquiring.
I think if you were a person that listened to the top 5 type channels over the last couple of years, you either probably got frustrated with the losses and got out of the hobby, or at the very least, you're frustrated right now because you got crushed and you're trying to figure out some kind of way that you can enjoy this without just, losing all of your money. Because a lot of people, and I feel bad because a lot of people that did kind of they didn't know any better. So they thought that these guys were, experts, and they were listening to what they were saying. And a lot of these people, I mean, I've talked to a lot of them at these shows that just got absolutely crushed by, being fed these things. And it's a shame.
Yeah. And I think that'll lead us down a road now of which the National is a great place if you're getting into vintage. Like if you're listening to this and you're thinking about getting into vintage, it's all over the National. I mean, it is. There's so much vintage. About half the show, I would say, at least from last year, was vintage. And you had how Chicago's laid out, Andy. Back in the back where all the newer dealers are, they had all the ultra modern stuff. You get into the old school side of the house, it's all vintage, and it's great. And they have modern stuff too. It's not like and the newer guys have some vintage, but there's so much of it there. You're going to be able to find great stuff, and hopefully that translates to great deals. And I think it is. I think we're heading towards a national of opportunity that we haven't seen since 2018, 2019 in terms of finding good deals.
Yeah, and I feel like, we were kind of comparing the Dallas show to the National earlier, and pretty similar in number of tables, but I think you get a better mixture at the National. I think it's more of a, 50-50 split, in terms of vintage and modern. I think the Dallas show, you're going to see, what would you say, 80? Yeah, 80% modern. So you're going to get a better variety of things at the National. So that's another big plus for, I mean, even though they are about relatively the same size as table wise, but you get a better variety, I think.
And I think you're also going to see the trend of way more raw stuff. Like I'm starting to see that in Dallas. I saw it in Missoula when I was there at that show. Lots of raw stuff because it's too expensive to grade on vintage. They're like, I'm not going to grade this. And all the graded vintage is being gobbled up and put into the dark hole, or in my case, the beast,
Yes.
And never to see the light again. And newer, people aren't grading that. They got plenty of Zions to grade, or whoever ultra modern player du jour, right? So I saw a lot of more raw at this Dallas show. I think we're going to see that trend continue. Anyway, it's I think the environment for shows is evolving, and I think that's good. I like things to change. I'm not afraid of that. I guess it doesn't need to be the same every time. In fact, walking around Dallas, I told you, I came back to you and I'm like, I'm actually bored. I'm seeing all the same stuff I see every 2 months. It's like, and there's not really any deals to be had. I still love a show more than anything. It's the best hobby experience because the people aspect, the interaction, the in-person wheeling and dealing, the hunt, all of that is the best environment for that is a show. It's not a shop. It's not eBay. It's a show. It's so much fun. But
that's going to be another great thing about going to the National in Atlantic City is, yeah, you're going to see some different stuff. Like you're going to see different dealers. Like it can get a little bit repetitive because they do the Dallas Card Show, I think every 2 months. So
yeah,
it's not a big break in between there. So sometimes there's maybe not enough time to like really just kind of get that buildup that you need. And I like going there, but yeah, I mean, some of the stuff definitely can get a little bit repetitive. I mean, you said you didn't even film anything because you're like, I think everybody's seen the Dallas show floor by now. And I thought that was spot on because how many times it's not like it looks any different, right?
Yep, it doesn't. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Andy and I will both be at the National. So if you're there, make sure you say hi. And Andy, you were a great pinch hitter for Ty today. Do you feel, accomplished now? You've been on the fly.
Well, I mean, I'll let everybody else be the judge of that. Like, I don't know. I've never, I played baseball up until I was in high school, and I don't ever remember pinch hitting. So we'll see how I did.
Well, thanks again for being on the show, and great topic. I hope we get some great feedback down below. Feel free to tell us what you think. I don't know that, we have all the right answers, but it's our opinions, and it'll be, I'm excited about the National. Honestly, I really am, in terms of what opportunities might be there. So looking forward to that. I'm always looking forward to hanging out with you, but I'll hang out with you again before the National. So.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Andy, you want to send us off with my traditional send off?
Keep collecting.
That's right.